but we're in a transition, and we are in a political climate that is, even in the Bay Area, mixed in terms of support for tougher measures that many of us individually are working for or in favor of, and we have a lot of work to do in building political support and political will and popular support. I mean, we have all the strategies we need. You know, it's not as if we have to invent new strategies. It's really, do we have, you know, popular support and political will to implement them? And, you know, we're in a transition.
I have a follow-up question that's actually more directed at the people in this room, and that is, from your perspective, what's the best way for advocates to, where's the pressure points on the organizations that are, you know, the agencies and governments and stuff? Because it sounds like what you were pointing out is the agencies and the local governments don't have things figured out, don't have the backbone to actually do anything about it if they have, or it's very erratic.
Well, I think they have the backbone to do some things, and they've started on some things, but
so the question is, and by being here, it's a very good sign, and you're seeing that it's going to take advocacy groups to push and prod. What's sort of the best way? Can you expand on that?
Well, I'll just speak in terms of the four agencies that I work with. Again, these are all made up, the boards are all made up of local elected officials. And I think local elected officials are quite good for the most part, and JPC in various ways got a pretty good group of the five from each agency. We got I think a greener group in some ways. I would talk with them. You know, I think if they, I mean, I can look around the room at the 20 commissioners on JPC, and you can see how they've responded in various ways to local advocates and to local push on issues. But I think it has to happen locally more than regionally. I think that's where that's where they're elected. And I think that's where there's more of a relationship, you know, with their own constituents. And you know, a number of them on our board of the 20 are really pretty strong advocates for one or more of the strategies that we're pursuing. And I think they got that a lot from studying the issues, but also from push from their local constituents. You know, Charles McClashin, for instance, in Marin on energy issues, is as strong as it gets on community choice aggregation, on other important issues. And so, you know, there's a good example of local elected officials, but they need to hear it. They and Charles and others will tell you this. You know, they want to see the people turn out to talk with them.
Early on, you had mentioned that there were 5 electeds. You said Jane Bruner, Tom Bates, Jim Haggerty. Did I get that right?
Scott Haggerty.
Scott Haggerty.
Yeah, those are the 3 from Alameda County.
The 3 from Alameda County,
yes,
who are on the commission of
who are on the joint policy.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Can you provide, maybe delocalize a complete list?
Sure, exactly. I can provide it. It's also, Joint Policy Committee has a website on the ABAG website, and so I'm sure it's listed there, but I can provide it and make it simple.
One more question.
Sure.
As Dave mentioned, we're also very interested in the energy efficiency and renewable energy financing district. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we've been moving ahead with cities here in the East Bay and generating a lot of citizen support for, and like to hear, what your latest information is and where that's at the regional level.
Good. ABAG is taking the lead on this one. This was number 5 on our list of 6. And I think I mentioned they've hired a team of consultants to look at what's the business case for ABAG doing this and how could it work. And I would defer to their staff, and I can give you their staff link. It's Jerry Lahr, L-A-H-R, at ABAG, who's the key staff person to talk to as they're developing this. I mean, this is all being kind of done, like a lot of the climate stuff, on the fly. We had Berkeley first. Sonoma now has a very strong AB 811 program. This is there the other day, and they've taken applications for over $18 million worth of improvements, residential and commercial. They've approved 12 million, and they've already paid out over 6. So Sonoma's really, and I think their cap is 100 million at this point. So their Sonoma Energy Independence Program, as they're calling it, is quite good, quite strong. And so you have Berkeley doing their pilot, you have AB 811, you have a number of counties, as I understand it, talking with Cisco DeVries and his company, Renewable Funding. Cisco was, probably safe to say, the key architect of Berkeley First. So their company, which is headquartered up the block here, is in talks both here and around the country with a number of public agencies, and so some of our counties are talking with them. So it's proceeded. So ABAG at the same time is looking at how could an ABAG regional program best work. So beyond that, I can't really speak to it.
As a follow-up to that, we understand that the state is setting up an aggregated financing, but that's just the financing, that there's other aspects of the marketing and the job training and so on.
Good, and I should back up and say that's what ABAG's looking at, is a more comprehensive program where the financing is a real heart of it and a real missing piece for much of this, but they're looking at a whole set of things that could go together and be kind of a one-stop.
So sort of a regional aggregate of all the things you need in additional to the financing which happens at the state level?
Yes. Okay. So, and they're looking at not maybe just providing the financing at the state level, but through ABAG Power Authority, and ABAG has a couple of ways. But they're looking at a lot of different. This is big money and risk and all of that. So they're proceeding. I mean, just like Berkeley found that it's not something you can just do overnight because it's the right thing to do. I was at a meeting. I was sitting next to Dan Camden from Cal at the meeting where Berkeley staff first outlined Berkeley First. And I'll never forget Dan under his breath kind of like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? It was like these political people came up with this thing when, the experts at the university hadn't thought of it yet. But, it's the beauty of the climate work. And again, it's what we want to try and do with Climate Bay Area is recognize and encourage. I mean, innovation is where this is going to come from. This is not going to come, much of the innovation is certainly not going to come from the state or the regional agencies. It's going to come from locals and from great ideas like this. Yeah.
So you said that you're sort of taking inventory right now of different projects or actions that are happening in different areas.
Yeah.
What's the scope of those that you're looking at? Is it down to community-based grassroots efforts up to government things, or is it just the government project?
It's we'll see as it goes. We're looking for things of some scale, so those are often going to be government led. But like in Sonoma, I'll just list a couple of things that we're interested in that we looked at with them last week. Sonoma's doing a partnership with Nissan. It's one of 7, I think, around the country on developing a program to put 1,000 electric vehicles next year in Sonoma County. And so that's one that we're interested in. They're going to test that. These are going to be mainly 100-mile range vehicles and others, but we're very interested in that kind of test and to see how it goes. They're going to do it with government agencies as well as employees.